500% increase in spending on advertising for these drugs. They really boosted advertising, tried to grow the market. Did it work? Today, 1 out of every 5 Americans is on a drug in this class. Attention deficit disorder, treated with drugs from this class, 25 times as often in the United States as it is in the United Kingdom, where they don't have any direct-to-consumer advertising. Well, I grant you folks that's not the only factor, but I think it's one. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes out there. There was a study of oncology nurses, and 94% of them said that their patients asked for an advertised drug. Okay, not too shocking. 74% of the time, those requests the nurses felt were inappropriate. And 43% of the time, they felt pressured to get an inappropriate drug for the patient, by the patient. Doctors, a little over a third, about 37%, say, when a patient really asks or expresses a preference for an advertised, branded drug, even if it's more expensive to either the patient or the drug company, unless they express a concern about costs, I'll write that prescription for them in lieu of a generic that might be equally effective and a longer-term track record of safety. Well, why? Why does this happen? It seems uniformly bad for everybody but the drug companies. I see where it's good for the drug companies and their shareholders. But let's think about who else it's good for. It's good for the media. They're getting $5 billion worth of advertising every year. So, I wonder why we don't see any stories about how horrible direct-to-consumer advertising is in the midst of healthcare debate and folks that really indict pharmaceutical companies for their bad behavior. What would happen if we did ban direct-to-consumer advertising? Well, we'd join the world of nations again. New Zealand, I think they're on their own path to getting rid of direct-to-consumer advertising. But manufacturers would really have to restructure their pricing strategies to not account for patients should ask their doctor for a certain drug. They'd have to have an entirely different strategy. Would it be better? Would it be worse? I don't know, but it would certainly have to be different. Doctors would probably waste a lot less time and a lot less visits for people that were asking for drugs inappropriately. We'd have less misinformation, less overprescribing, and I think we'd save $25 billion. Media will not be happy. The pharmaceutical companies will not be happy. It's okay to be swayed to purchase jeans or televisions or iPhones by the media, by commercials you see. It's not okay to be swayed to get a poison dripped into your veins that you don't understand, and maybe even more frightfully, your doctor doesn't even understand because you were swayed by a commercial. Folks, there's no First Amendment right at stake here. This law was not enacted in response to that we were muzzling the free speech of the drug companies. There is no First Amendment right to sway somebody to buy a product that they cannot possibly understand if they need it or if it's harmful to them. In a free society, we shouldn't allow our corporate masters to exploit us in this way. Write your congressman. Quote the things I mention in this podcast. Heck, send them a link to this podcast. But if we are truly a free people, we should be able to eliminate this threat to the public health and safety and save a few dollars in the process. It does add up. Until next time, my friends, stay healthy.
Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and more details at grumpyolddoc.com.